No man has a right to own mountains. Chapter 7. Wakey, wakey, ma'am. Here's a cup of tea. Rosie, what time is it? 7:30, ma'am. Breakfast will be ready when you've had that and get dressed. Did you have a good night's sleep? I think so. I think I want to go back to sleep. Come on, with things to see and things to do. We can't let the day go to waste. Alice struggled upright, wiping the sleep from her eyes. You're pinching my lines, Rosie. What on earth's got into you? I've been up for ages. I've been helping Ralph milk the cows, and I collected the eggs for breakfast, and I'm helping Mrs. Gartside prepare it. And with that she was off, down the old uneven staircase, leaving her mother to enjoy her tea and struggle to face up to a new day in strange surroundings. As Rosie entered the kitchen, Mrs. Gartside smiled. What shall I do next? Rosie asked. The farmer's wife shook her head. I've everything under control here, love. Why don't you relax? Take Titch outside if you want. He seems to have taken to you. I'll give you a shout when I'm ready to serve breakfast. Titch was sprawled out on the multicoloured flock mat in front of the roaring coal fire. He looked across, ears pricked on hearing his name. Does he need a lead? No, love. Titch is well trained. Rosie squatted down. Here, boy. Titch responded, tail wagging. Rosie fondled his ears. Take me for a walk, Titch. There's a good dog. The tail wagged faster. Mrs. Gartside laughed. I'd swear he understands every word, Rosie. Don't forget to wrap up warm. It's pretty cold out there. Stay in the yard and don't go into the buildings alone. Farms are dangerous places. I'll shout you when breakfast's ready. Don't wander off. No sooner said than done. Rosie shut the door behind her and gazed around the farmyard for a moment. The back of the farmhouse faced straight onto the moor. A couple of fields, gently sloping uphill, were bounded by dry stone walls, immediately behind which the hill swept steeply upwards, the course of a stream marked by a line of trees, a distinct tracery of gnarled, twisted black trunks and leafless branches against the otherwise dark mixture of rough grasses, bracken, and small clumps of stunted heather. In one of the fields 6 cows grazed. In the other, sheep cropped the grass, their chorus of bleats blending with the soft sough of the wind and the sound of running water. To the left stood a tall stone barn, forming a right angle with the farmhouse, and acting as a windbreak from the westerly winds, which swept in from the Irish Sea across the Cheshire and Lancashire plains, Kinder being the first major landmass in their moisture-laden path. To the right, a low stone building, containing the cattle byre and a couple of old stables, completed a U-shape, enclosing the cobbled farmyard on 3 sides. An old tractor, rusting away, stood in the far left corner. It caught Rosie's eye. She walked over to it and clambered up onto the cold steel seat, shaped as if moulded by a human backside, albeit one much larger than hers, and mounted on a long curved spring. This, to Rosie's surprise and delight, gave under her weight before springing upwards once more. A seesaw designed for one. She bounced up and down, gripping its sides, whilst Titch stood on his hind legs, his forepaws on the tractor's massive driveshaft cover, his alert eyes concentrating on his new friend, watching her every move. Rosie gazed around, taking in her immediate surroundings. More farm implements, an old plough and a harrow, lay next the wall, slowly oxidizing a rich red-brown amongst a profusion of nettles. Once more her attention was drawn upwards to the jagged gritstone edge high above, and the overcast sky, the colour and texture of her old grey duffel coat, reserved for wearing to school on cold winter days. A crunch of feet on loose stones. Ralph and his father appeared around the end of the cow byre, obviously deep in conversation and unaware of her presence. At the same time, her mother appeared at the farmhouse door, the top half of which she'd opened. Breakfast, Rosie? The youngster jumped off the tractor attracting the attention of the farmer and his son. "Good morning, lass," Mr. Gartside greeted her with a smile. "Morning, Mr. Gartside. Ralph, breakfast ready?" "Aye, and my belly were already telling me." "What are your plans for the day, Rosie?" Ralph asked. "Are you still going to Edale?" "I think so." "Ralph had better go with thee, I reckon," the farmer responded. "Feyther, you were just telling me." "That were then, this is now. I quite forgot about young Rosie and her mother. You can be their guide. Weather's so unpredictable at this time of year." Ralph shook his head, thinking the weather was far more predictable than his father, but didn't argue. Rosie smiled her sweet smile. She was fast developing a soft spot for old Mr. Gartside. They made their way to the kitchen cum dining room. Mr. Gartside immediately went to the black-leaded cast-iron fireplace, squatting down to give the burning coals a poke before warming his hands. Ralph headed to the door that led to the stairs. "I'll get our Connie. Is she awake, mother?" "Yes, and dressed. She's playing with her crayons." Mrs. Gartside turned to Rosie. "Sit this helm down, lass, and you too, Alice. Do you like porridge or cornflakes?" "Both, but can I have porridge, please?" "I'll have the same as Rosie, but please let me help, Elsie," Alice responded. "No, too many cooks spoil. Anyway, you're my guest, so sit down, please." Mr. Gartside joined them, whilst Mrs. Gartside placed bowls of porridge and a fresh jug of milk before them. Moments later, Ralph re-entered the room. A young girl with long hair, the colour of carrots, wearing a long dress and a face full of smiles, held in his arms. "This is my sister Connie," he announced to nobody in particular, although his eyes were on Rosie. Mrs. Gartside grabbed an old wooden chair with a curved spindle back and armrest, placing it at the table opposite Rosie. "Sit her here, Ralph. Would you like porridge, Connie, love?" "Please." Ralph carefully seated her in the chair as his mother placed a bowl of steaming porridge in front of the girl. He took the vacant seat next to her. She picked up her spoon, but then looked up, her eyes wide and an unusual shade of green, gazing straight into Rosie's own, as if trying to access the very depths of the other girl's soul. "Hello," she suddenly said, breaking the momentary silence. "Do you like reading?" Rosie, caught off balance by the unexpected question, hesitated before informing her that she did. "Will you read to me at bedtime tonight? Ralph's bought me a new boot." "Yes, of course I will." Connie smiled and began to attack her breakfast. "Would you like to walk to Edale Cross with us?" Rosie asked. Connie shook her head. "I can't," she said. "I can't walk anywhere, not until I get my new leg." She smiled once more and returned her attention to her food.